Hey guys, Doug B here. I'm hoping that you have had some time to play with the firmware 1.6 goodies. I mean, 22 new effects. Some of them are really straightforward. Some of them are a little tricky. And then there's a couple that just like, wait a second, what the heck is going on here? I'm talking about the Arctic Sustainer and the Antarctic Sustainer. Now, if you just add either of these effects to a preset and turn it on or off, nothing's going to happen. And that is really confusing a bunch of people. That's why I've been getting messages like this one from @anabidingdude8079. Hey Doug, exploring the new firmware update, and I have tried every configuration on the Arctic and Antarctic Sustainers, and neither pedal sustains anything. It always decays as if the pedal wasn't even there. Might be interesting to check out. Am I missing something? Thanks. Well, let's see what we can find out about the sustainer effects. If we take a look at the model guide, it says that the Arctic Sustainer is inspired by the Electro-Harmonix Freeze. So what does this pedal do? Well, Fender says this effect features the ability to freeze any note or chord to create infinite sustain for background textures or sonic explorations. There are 3 controls: the dry, the wet, and the freeze switch. You can see that the freeze switch has 3 settings: A, B, and off. A means trigger A, and B means trigger B. Fender has also included instructions, or tips, in the model guide as to how to set this effect up correctly. For the Arctic Sustainer, we find this: leave the effect enabled and control freeze switch with a parameter change foot switch assignment. Option 1, assign active value to trigger A and inactive value to off. Strum a chord, then enable the freeze foot switch. The Arctic Sustainer will sample the chord and continue to sustain it until the foot switch is pressed again. Then we have option 2. Assign the active value to trigger A and the inactive value to trigger B. The Arctic Sustainer will continue to capture new chords to sample with successive presses of the freeze foot switch, alternating between trigger A and B. I've set up a preset to show you how this works. Let's switch to the Pro Control app. Here's my Arctic Sustainer test preset. It uses the Comic Sans drive, the 65 Deluxe Reverb Blonde NBC amp-only model, the stereo doubler, the Arctic Sustainer, the stereo Aurora delay, and the Atmosphere Convolution Room reverb. Now if we click on Foot Switch Assign, you can see that I have 4 foot switches set up. One for the first Arctic Sustainer option, another for the second Arctic Sustainer option, a melt foot switch that we'll get into later, and an on-off foot switch for the Comic Sans drive. If we look at the Arctic 1 foot switch, we can see that it's doing a parameter change. The parameter is freeze, the active value is trigger A, and the inactive value is off. So you would strum a chord and then press the Arctic 1 foot switch. The Sustainer will sample or freeze the chord and will let you play it indefinitely until you press the Arctic 1 foot switch again. So why would you want to do this? Well, for example, you can use it to practice your solos or use it as a backing pad when playing out in a live situation. Now let's take a look at the Arctic 2 foot switch. It's set up very much like the Arctic 1 foot switch, but the inactive value is set to trigger B. You can strum a chord and press the Arctic 2 foot switch to freeze that chord. You can solo over that and then strum another chord and press the Arctic 2 foot switch again, and it will freeze the second chord. You can keep repeating this process, switching between different chords. When you're done using the Arctic Sustainer, you can press the melt foot switch, which turns off the freeze parameter on the Arctic Sustainer. The 4th foot switch is set up to turn the Comic Sans drive on and off. Let's demo this preset. Okay, this is my Arctic Sustainer test preset, and we will try the first option first. Okay, now we'll try option number 2. So if we go back to the model guide again, it says that the Antarctic Sustainer is inspired by the Electro-Harmonix Deep Freeze pedal. So how is this different from the Arctic Sustainer? Well, Fender says this effect features the ability to freeze any note or chord to create infinite sustain for background textures or sonic explorations. It also includes additional features for adjusting other parameters. If you compare the two effects, you can see that the Antarctic Sustainer has the same parameters as the Arctic Sustainer, plus other parameters such as attack, decay, pitch, gliss, and mode. Fender's instructions, or tips, say this: Antarctic has additional modes that will alter the way foot switches are assigned. Leave the effect enabled and control the freeze switch with a parameter change foot switch assignment. And now standard mode. Antarctic works just like the Arctic Sustainer. Follow those instructions for options 1 and 2. Auto mode. Assign active value to trigger A and inactive value to off. When freeze is on, effect will automatically detect chord changes and sample/sustain them. To auto sample with the option of playing over the top without resampling, assign active value to trigger A and inactive value to trigger B. Trigger A will auto sample and trigger B will disable auto sampling while retaining sample playback. And then we have layer mode. Assign active value to trigger A and inactive value to trigger B. While playing, successive presses of the freeze switch will sample additional layers on top of the original sample loop. Fender included a new factory preset called Antarctic Core Sample that uses the Antarctic Sustainer. Let's switch over to the Pro Control app again. This is the Fender factory preset called Antarctic Core Sample. It uses the 65 Deluxe Reverb amp-only model, the Antarctic Sustainer, the large hall reverb, and the 3D chorus. Now if we go down here to the foot switch assign panel, we can see that there are 3 scenes set up in this preset, one for each of the 3 modes on the Antarctic Sustainer. There's also a foot switch set up to activate the freeze function. Now let's demo this preset. And now this is the Fender factory preset Antarctic Core Sample. We'll try the layer scene first. Okay, now we'll try auto. And now we'll try standard. Well, I hope this video helped you to understand how those two Sustainer pedals work. It does take a little bit of effort to figure out how to use those guys correctly in a preset. And if you've owned either one or both of those Electro Harmonics pedals, drop me a line and let me know, did Fender get close in their version of it? I mean, I'm guessing they did, but I'd like to know from you guys, so drop me a comment. And if you're still here, thank you so much for stopping by and sticking around. I really do appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, drop me a line down here, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Now, we'll still be going over the new firmware for the next few weeks or so, and you do not want to miss that. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. All right, guys, have a fantastic week, and I'll be talking with you again next Wednesday.